Reporters Roundtable provides viewers with in-depth examination of issues reported on leading media outlets across the world. A lively panel of journalists with comprehensive knowledge in all fields of endeavor, be it politics, health, business, sports, entertainment, information, communication technology, gender, law, international affairs and diplomacy, and a host of others will objectively dissect the matter of contention. On Reporters Roundtable, fairness, objectivity, factuality, and non-partisanship is our hallmark. It's the Double RT Show with Rebekah Awuah. This and every other Thursday from 10 to 12 GMT. Make a date with us. The Reporters Roundtable, all angles, all sides. It is the first day of the last month of the year. My name is Rebekah Awuah, and Ghana has been in the far front of political change in Africa since independence in 1957, the first country in the region to be free of colonial rule with a democratically elected government. Ghana acted as a springboard for the independence struggle on the continent. The constitution that established the Fourth Republic provided Ghana with that opportunity to be the beacon of democracy in Africa. The document now reflects lessons learned from the abrogated constitutions of 1957, 1960, 1969, and 1979, and incorporates provisions and institutions drawn from British and American constitutional models. It's 6 days to Ghana's most crucial election 2016, and all eyes are fixed on Ghana to once more be a shining example as the beacon of democracy in the sub-region. Ghana has been one of the countries that has always led the way in navigating the troubled water alongside Nigeria. Discussant for today's show looks at Ghana in the eyes of the world. Professor Emmanuel Osei Asiamah is a governance expert and the executive director of Governance and Leadership Institute. I also have in the studio William Nyarko. He is the executive director of the Africa Center for International Law and Accountability, and a two-time Ghana Journalist Award Investigative Journalist of the Year in 1997 and 1999. The Public Affairs Director of the Ghana Police Service, Superintendent Cephas is here. And Peter Clottey is an international journalist and host of One-on-One with Peter Clottey on Voice of America. That's VOA in Washington, D.C. I'm privileged to have him as a co-host and a guest. And as I earlier indicated, I am your chief servant, Rebekah Awuah. The program is supported proudly by Health West Ghana, Ashirifia Wear, L.A.S, Liberty School, and Ideal College, the renowned Center for Excellent Education. Ideal College, how can you feel? Now, your comments and contributions, as well as your critiques, are gladly welcome. Remember to send us those on 02444754422, and we will be glad to read them. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
And my co-host. Yes, I guess this is the first time you are meeting Peter.
Yes.
All of us.
Well, I met Cephas before.
Right. Okay, so let's start with you, Prof. You know, Ghana went to the polls since 1992,
yeah.
And there has been a changeover from a John to a John to a John, and now we have another John. How significant has these elections been over the time?
Well, absolutely, it has been very, very good. Looking at where we came from before, that's the pre-1982, where we came from, that we were having a particular governance system whereby more or less, it was not like democratic as we are experiencing now. So far we've come far, and I think that we have done tremendously well in improving year by year. What I mean by year, I'm talking about every election year we keep on improving, and which is very good for the nation and for the continent at large, which means that we are keen in showing to the world that we want to still be seen as the eye of Africa in terms of democracy and in terms of pushing the continent also forward, because in actual fact we are being looked at on every particular line of action that we take for the country and for Africa at large.
William, let me have your take on that.
I mean, clearly Ghana has been making progress, showing that we are capable and demonstrating that we change governments peacefully through the ballot box. And when you even look at the voting pattern from '92 to date, you will see significant shifts every now and then. You would find that, for example, from 1992 to 2000, there was a voting pattern in a certain direction, and then it changed. But by far, when you compare the 1992 election all the way to 2000, to the 2000 period, you see much more competition, you see much more closeness in the result outcome. So clearly, we are demonstrating that, you know, we are actually giving power to elected officials through our voting. But of course, there are still room for improvement, and I think we can talk mostly based on governance. How are we governing? Is it just the moment of election, voting somebody in power? In between elections, what's being the progress that is being made in holding government really accountable?
Well, some people will say since the reintroduction of constitutional rule in 1992 and the embrace of this democratic experiment that Ghana has decided to undertake, the Burgundian democracy is only approximately less than 25 years old. Some countries have been practicing it for well over 200 years, and they're still tweaking it. There is a significant room for improvement. However, there has to be a commitment from the grassroots level, from the top down, where Ghanaians are educated to participate and hold their leaders accountable. It is only by so doing that will sanitize the system, and ethnic tensions will be significantly reduced, and then have people participate fully. Once they do, it will be difficult for anybody who doesn't have the policies to convince Ghanaians to vote for them to just come in, promise them heaven and earth, yet wouldn't be able to deliver. These are key issues that need to be critically addressed. Failure to do that, then anybody at all can come in and tell you, hey, I'm going to bring the seashore to Kumasi. I'm going to bring America down to Takoradi. I'll bring Britain to Wale Wale. These are issues that need to be addressed critically from the school level, grade level, primary school level, way up. Once this is done, the strength of democracy in Ghana will be significantly improved.
Right. Superintendent, your initial reaction?
Yeah, thank you. And let me say that I want to say good morning to all your viewers and wish them the best of day, this special voting day. It is, with me, it is also the progress that everybody is talking about, but in the arena of security. Sure. I can also say that, in fact, the progression of Ghana in their democratic course is grafted on the foundation of security. And I can also say that the security over the years has been improving right from the time that we started democracy, and even from 1992 of late. You agree with me that security has kept on improving. And in the past, during electioneering campaigns and even the voting day itself, we recorded serious infractions, where in the past some people have even been burnt to death, people have been assaulted seriously, some people have been killed and other things. But you see that we continue to make that progress that everybody is talking about as a country. And that is what is standing us out as a beacon of an example. So the police and their sister security agencies, the military, customs, immigration, fire service have also been doing what they know how to do best to ensure that we're able to safeguard our development in the course of democracy.
But how has this shaped the politics of the country over the time? Most especially with what Peter said in connection with tackling the issues to the core, other than just making promises that ordinarily cannot be.
You see, if I may take that, you see, when you talk about the politics of the day and other things, every politician try to look into the situation and try to also strategize his or her message accordingly as to what the people actually want to hear. And that is what they will actually try to strategize to position themselves so as to get the mandate of the people. So it is behold on us to also do a check and cross-check again, and also let us see, because we are giving them our power. The power is actually for us, and we want to give it to whoever is canvassing for a vote or whatever to come to have that power. So in the first instance, we have the power. And so we have to actually know that the sovereignty of this country lies in us. And then we have to make that decision to give somebody the mandate to have the power that the person is actually canvassing for. And so we need to begin to also know that now, let's take 1992 for example. You can see that even when you take the electoral system, you see that the electoral commission has also brought some tremendous improvement in terms of the electoral process from there to date. Now, when you look at the 1992 election, it was also about promising and promising and promising. Now you come to the next election, is the same. Even this particular election too, it is still the same. So gradually, we are swaying off from the policy thinking that we are supposed to be. But the difficulty here is that it has to also it has something to do with the illiteracy level of Ghana in general. You can see that the literacy level is so high in that very few people read a lot. The manifesto that they put out there, I don't know how many people will take have the pain to read unless they come out to actually preach whatever is in the manifesto. But at the end of the day, if
but
they
not
are
to catch you, are manifestos that which are written only on paper, or what's the politicians say while on campaign on the campaign trail?
You say, are you saying that it is just on paper and what they say is different?
Yeah, you know, you made mention of the fact that how many people will read the manifestos, exactly. But I want to find out from you whether the manifestos are just the ones written on paper, like the documented thing, or it also pertains to the issues that the politician raises on their campaign trail.
Sometimes, some of the issues that they put on or in their manifesto, they don't necessarily even end up saying it, because you see, when you are on a campaign trail, and governors will tell you, when you're on a campaign trail, sometimes the masses sometimes pushes you for you to tell them what you think they need to hear. And you end up saying certain things. At the end of the day, if you could have the time to look into various political parties, their manifesto, some of the things that they themselves are actually promised that they will end up doing, at the end of the day, they end up swaying themselves out of the gear, because on that campaign trail, they said something that at the end of the day they have to do. Even on the campaign trail, what normally has been happening is that they end up saying certain things that they themselves, they know that it is not achievable. But because it's not in their manifesto, when they come to power, they refer you back to the manifesto that this is what this is what I said, and this is what, based on this, that the people voted for me. And so sometimes we need to look into their manifesto, because when you talk about policies, that is where most of the policies are. What they come on campaign platform and talk about and whatever, most of the time they end up not talking about policies. They end up talking about, they feel that that's what the people want to hear. And so to bridge this gap, I think we should begin to also educate people that they have to have particular patience and have a time for every political party's manifesto. And also, even if you not even read the manifesto, whatever they will say, we should begin to write it down so that we can tackle those issues when they come to power.
Let me add that, in addition to what he has said, first of all, a manifesto is basically a contract with the people. This is what you're promising, and this is what you expect, when voters connect to you, then they vote for you. I think if we look at outcome of elections as one way of determining whether voters were more aligned to the manifesto promises of one candidate to the other, you look at the results. And then when you look at 92, 92 is a baseline. We know that there were serious issues with the electoral integrity in 92, but that was the first time that we were emerging after the revolutionary phase. But when you look at 96, Rawlings won by close to 57.3%. But that was really a loss of some percentage points from what he won in 92. If voters retained him, was that an indication that they were aligned with his policies? They felt that they should give him another chance. By contrast, in 2000, we saw a change. And again, in 2008, we saw a change. It could be an indication of whether voters are aligned with the policies or promises of one candidate over the other. But there's also the issue about literacy as you combine with the policies of the candidates. I think the anecdotal evidence exists which suggests that Ghanaians vote on issues. And this is why. When you tell somebody, Shawasitinem Natuaba, look at your living conditions and vote, what you are invoking are issues of economics, of jobs, and all of that, cost of living and all of that. It may not be couched in the way that, on the literacy level, that's how it is. But people have reasons for voting. We may not always agree with the reasons that they give. For example, we did a survey, as part of a project that we did on Vote March. What we did was we took the views of the electorate in 216 constituencies, and then looked at the issues which were trending. In various regions, we had issues like jobs, cost of living, roads and infrastructure, peace, health, education, and then we ranked them nationally. The national ranking was interesting. Jobs, cost of living, corruption were the first three issues. But when you narrow down to the regions, regions had different reasons. So, for example, Volta region, for example, had roads and infrastructure as key. In the Greater Accra region, it was corruption as first. So the issues are there. The second point is how well do we track and monitor these policies that the candidates bring. After they win the election, that's where a lot of effort also needs to be put so that we hold them accountable to the promises that they make. And we are doing a project on that, and where we can also give approval ratings of whoever wins the election. So from that standpoint, I think that Ghana continues to focus more on the issues. And when you look at programming that the media and other bodies are doing, funded by Star Ghana, for example, we've been gearing more towards the issues. What we need is exit data, which shows why people voted, whether they voted based on issues. So there's room for improvement, but I think that we are continuing towards the path of making sure that we are moving. You can contrast that to even America, for example, and you see that even though America has been practicing democracy for well over 200 years, we saw what happened recently in the Trump matter. People said they voted based on certain reasons. So the Ghanaian voter is sophisticated. We have a language barrier, but it translates into the main issues.
Well, I can see that Cephas voted today, right? And he talked about security, correct?
Yeah.
Now, how is the voting process so far? Because I spoke with some security officers, and they were saying they couldn't find their names in the voter register. Electoral Commission officials tell me that if they don't see this in the special voting, possibly it could be in the main register. How are you addressing those issues? Because today is the special day for those who will be working on election day.
This is a crucial issue I've raised. In fact, we have also heard about some police officers not finding their names in the special voters register, and therefore not having the ability to exercise their franchise. It is early days yet because we've just started voting, and the issues are coming. And what happened, in fact, is that when we compiled a list of the special voters and submitted, after everything, it was found out that some people's name didn't appear on the special voters list. So what was agreed is that those whose name didn't appear are supposed to still go to their original voting constituencies so that they can go and exercise their franchise. And that they were being given yesterday, today, and tomorrow to go and do that. But for those who were successful about transferring their destiny to do the special vote, they should go to areas that have been indicated against their names to go and vote. But for those, once again, for those who didn't find their names but still submitted their names for the special voters listing, they should go to their original places of voting, and they will have the opportunity of voting. Nonetheless, we are still getting cases of people not finding their names. As to whether or not they are people who didn't hear the signal that we sent to the entirety of the police personnel, and for that matter did not go to their original places of voting, or it is a matter of they going and not finding their names, is yet to be determined. But at the end of the day, the various stakeholders, the police, the EC, and other stakeholders like the political parties will come together and find a solution to this problem, because nobody can be disenfranchised. Once a person is desirous of voting, he must be given the opportunity to vote. And so we advise caution on the part of the police. They should get composed and understand that at the end of the entire exercise, either today or by the end of the process, which starts from 7th, they would have voted.
But let me ask you, who is policing the police and other security services undertaking the special voting today? Who is doing so?
The police and the other security agencies are policing the police and the other security agencies. And the public eyes are also policing us. Public opinion is also policing us. What we are doing is that the regional, divisional, district, and even police station officers have been tasked with the responsibility of providing security generally for the special voters exercise. And so they are doing that. The second, perhaps, prong this is that the police officers and the security agency officers themselves, who are also voting, are also supposed to serve as a check on themselves and check on other individuals who are also taking part in the special voting. So it is a two-prong approach, or even three-prong approach. The police officers have deployed men to take care of the voting, and then police officers and other security agencies officers who are voting today are also checking themselves, and then the public eye, public opinion.
I think it's quite regrettable what has happened this morning. It is regrettable, and this is not something I put on the table of the police. It's the Electoral Commission that's primarily responsible for that. The information which is available in the public domain also suggests that, you know, where you see the bottleneck is the transfers. Transfers in some cases were successfully done, but they did not appear. I don't want to expand it to December 7th, because the key issue or key bottleneck is the transfer. So long as, you know, over 15 million registered voters did not transfer, we are unlikely to see this problem. But it doesn't give you know, the sort of greater confidence that you need to start off. But I do hope that, you know, there will be, after the fact, we can look at the issues. I do not know the time frame within which it was noticed that some names which, you know, had been transferred did not show. And then the information that went forward advising people you know, to take certain precautions, whether there was sufficient time between when it was discovered and the announcement or the signals that went out, because it's not only the police that's voting, the military and others are voting. So it may be, that sufficient time was not available to communicate to those who could not find theirs. When you listen to radio or watch TV reports of what's happening on the ground, some people just said that even though their names had been transferred, they went to vote. They said their names were not there. They should check back to where they were originally transferred from. When they went back there, their names were not there either. So the facts will unravel hopefully by the end of the day, and then we would see how it can be improved on December 7th. But I personally don't think that what happened today is likely to expand into December 7th, because the key issue there is transfer.
I think I share your opinion that this is not the exact replica. This is not likely to be the exact replica of what will happen on the 7th, except that it tends to foreshadow, cast some shadow on what is coming. But it's my hope that it doesn't look like what is happening today, and that because a lot of people also didn't get to know where they are going to vote. That's why we are having this problem, and that the pieces will be put together in the right time, so that definitely, as you said, this is a special voting, and a lot of security agents, officers of the security agencies, are going to have to vote today, and they may not have the opportunity of voting on the 7th. And that is why perhaps there will be some agitation amongst them. But at the end of the day, I hope that the various stakeholders will come together and quickly put the pieces together and ensure that those who are supposed to vote will get the opportunity of voting. And then they will come out also to inform the public as to what exactly happens, so that they can allay this fear.
But Cephas, the number of times I've spoken to you about the collaboration between the police and the Electoral Commission, you have been very insistent and maintained that there's a strong collaboration between the two bodies. Weren't these addressed, apart from the security issues that you discussed, about concerns some of your people have raised that their names did not appear, so those could be promptly addressed ahead of today's special voting?
Indeed, we have had a lot of collaboration with the EC, and we have discussed some of these issues at length. And let me say that generally, generally a few activities of the EC has been a bit late, even considering the late admission of some of the flag bearers.
Okay.
Due to the court issue, the disqualification, the court issues, and other things. So, as for engagement, it has been constant. As to why some of these things still have popped up is something that we have to look at later. But we should not lose sight of the fact that even in the last voting year, a few of these cases popped up.
Okay.
Except that perhaps it is more pronounced this time around.
Okay.
Okay, right. Let me come back to Professor Asiamah. You've been quiet for so long a time.
Professor takes time.
I would want us to touch briefly on, let's say, countries like Burundi, Zimbabwe, DR Congo, and all of that. Why is it so difficult, or why is it a challenge that the rule of law is not entrenched in these countries?
It all having to do with the rallying behind democracy, for the acceptance of democracy in those particular countries. I mean, when people are not actually being educated in terms of the purpose and the goodwill that democracy wish to serve the people, and it becomes difficult for the people to accept the democracy that the country want to practice. And then also, for a country to accept democracy, leadership also counts. If the leader who is in power is also demonstrating the fact that there should be an acceptance of democracy, also allowing the people to know that we need to accept whatever situation that we need to have to we need to accept. But when it comes to Ghana, for example, the reason why mostly we decide to not to have these particular experiences is that we have come to realization that we are one people, we are one, and the most fortunate thing for Ghana is that has to do with this secondary school boarding system and exchanging friendship and wherever we are. So right from the onset, children are being mixed up, and we practice it in such a way that we are one.
Is that not the case for the other African countries? In
other African countries, you see that most of the time the tribal issues happen, and this is how come you are experiencing this type of conflict in those countries. They take an entrenched position that we belongs to this particular place and this person belongs to this particular place, and you find out that a leader will come out. That leader belongs to a particular segment of the people, and that segment of that tribe are the majority. And so when a leader aligns himself to that particular line of people, then it means that if things are not going into his or her favor, he'll try to agitate certain things so that these people will come in support to them. And at the end of the day, that's where it brings this chaos and confusion and everywhere that we find ourselves. But the good thing is that, as I said, it happened to do with the schooling system. And in those countries, if you take, for example, in the countries that you mentioned, you see that even for you to be a friend to a particular tribe is quite problematic. You will not be allowed to even marry from a particular tribe. Ghana used to have this particular type of system, but we actually grew out of this particular system. So we see ourselves as one people, and that is how come we are experiencing the goodwill of democracy. We have come to accept, even though we have not gotten there as to the level that we wish that we should go. But I think that the much improvement has been accepted, that we need to improve to get to the particular stage that we want to get to.
So quickly, he raised a very peculiar issue of ethnocentrism.
Well, I mean, yes.
Would you concur to the fact that it is that which is troubling the various African countries? That is why we haven't been able to uphold the rule of law.
But it's more complex. I've just returned from Oslo, Norway, where we jointly organized a conference on the Great Lakes region of Africa. So we had East Africa, Burundi, DR Congo, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda were all there. And you learn that the issues in that region, for example, are quite complex. At the first point, of course, ethnic issues are there. The Tutsis and the Hutus and all of that, they cut across Rwanda, Burundi, DR Congo, across the region. But that's one part. The other part is constant destabilization undertaken by governments within the region. So you would have, there's lots of allegations about Rwanda destabilizing Burundi also, so, and of course, there are also foreign interests that also fan the flames because of the resources that are available. Now, when you discount that to what DSP, I hope I got you, Superintendent, Superintendent said, peace is crucial. Without peace, nothing can go forward. Democracy thrives in peace. Whilst the Great Lakes region continues to see a turmoil, we are seeing some calm. And like you say in our camp proverb, you can't keep crying all the time. You will cry after a point. You will have to stop. So you see waves of democracy going on, as we've seen stability under Paul Kagame in Rwanda. It's been stable, after the unfortunate genocide. Burundi is getting back, and there are issues about whether President Nkurunziza's term is a third term, or as provided by the Supreme Court of Burundi, whether it wasn't a third term. It's been resolved, but there are instances of issues still going on. DR Congo is still boiling up. So when you take that into our West African context, we've had our own. And we saw Liberia, we saw Sierra Leone. The tribal and ethnic things cut across Africa is the way that is managed. is the way that we have democratic governance, is the way, thanks to the awesome work of our security agencies who are ensuring that even though there are issues that keep on coming up, we would have some kind of consolidation of our democratic governance as we go forward.
It is still the Reporters Roundtable. It is the special voting day edition, and it is a special edition for us as I co-host this program with the international journalist Peter Clottey, who hosts One-on-One on VOA. We'll be back shortly. I can see that your messages are in. We will read them. Do stay. My name is Rebekah Awuah. Keep watching the Reporters Roundtable on GBC24 this and every other Thursday.
The Reporters Roundtable has come at the time that it should. It's a very important program. We are now going to educate the public about our practice and hopefully inform them about the work we do and how we do it. Keep watching Reporters Roundtable.
If you want to understand what journalism is all about, watch Reporters Roundtable, because here we criticize ourselves, we learn from one another, and try to put our profession on track.
Journalism is dynamic, and as part of our responsibility, we are supposed to go out there, fish for information for the public. Today in Ghana, it is our duty to ensure that the masses know what is going on in society. Reporters Roundtable is a program that you can get all these things. Watch Reporters Roundtable with Rebekah Awuah this and every Thursday.
Right, welcome back. This is a show proudly supported by Health West Ghana. Find them near the Islamic University in Nigeria, Ghana. It is also supported by Ashirifia Wear. Yes, I rock Ashirifia. Also supported by L.A.S. Liberty School in 43 Kinshasa Avenue in East Legon and Ideal College. Right, Peter, you had a submission to make in relation to the ethnocentrism.
Yeah, ethnic issues in Africa is quite complex. I'll give you an example of Somalia, which is the only African country with 100% Muslim population. So they have one religion only. They have one language known as Somali. However, there's instability since the overthrow of Mohammed Siad Barre about 25, 26 years ago. So one would ask, why has it been that? Because they have one language, one religion. The only difference is the clannish system. They are more committed to their clans than some people will argue to even the country. And they are different school of thought, but it remains to be seen how they're going to be addressing that. The United Nations, of course, the Western powers are trying to back this present government. Elections have been postponed. They are having quite a difficulty in trying to bring the country back together, because even Somaliland, Puntland, they want to go on their separate ways. The UN is not trying to support them because they've written so many applications. If you go to Somaliland, they have a new president, a new prime minister, they have a vice president, a new government. They have even printed their own currency, yet they are yet to be recognized by the United Nations. When you go to Burundi, they have the Tutsi-Hutu, dynamic. The narrative that the government in Bujumbura want us to know is that there is no ethnic tension. However, the UN has warned that with the kind of instability going on, with NGOs being targeted, persecuted, supposedly or allegedly by the Nkurunziza administration, although Willie Nyamitwe and Alain Nyamitwe, the foreign minister and the special advisor to the president, sharply deny some of these allegations. It remains to be seen what is happening on the ground now. Just across the border, you have a similar situation in Rwanda where President Paul Kagame says that the people of Rwanda came together unanimously to amend the constitution that will allow him to run for consecutive terms. Some people say he will run in perpetuity, that is forever, he might become a king. Now he rejects that because this is the will of Rwanda. Now, before that, you had the Ugandan president, Yoweri Museveni. There are rumors now that the constitution could be amended again because constitutional term limits was removed from the Ugandan constitution. Now the age limit is 70 years old. You can't go above that. Now the speculation is that President Kaguta Museveni is over 70 years old. I know of a member of parliament who has mooted the idea that there should be an amendment so he could run again because he is so experienced. Now, the interesting thing is that when Kaguta Museveni came on the scene, he said African leaders who stay in there, they are just wasting natural resources. Now he's singing a different tune, saying that, well, he's well experienced, he's seasoned like wine. When you stay in there for a long time, you have a rich taste. He said he's tired, but Ugandans are holding him hostage. You know, these things are going on. So with the amendment of constitution, we have been fortunate here in Ghana that the attempt hasn't been made. I remember President Kufuor mooted the idea that the term should be expanded rather, because sometimes by the time you blink your eye, the 4 years is over and you wouldn't do much. It remains to be seen how Ghanaians will try to come up to resolve that really idea that he's come up with. So there's a complexity around it. Africans have to set up and address these challenges. Failure to do that, we might have these challenges going forward.
But, Superintendent, from the security point of view, we see that the issue is more complex than the eye beholds. Let's bring in Ghana here. This is a region that is good business for a sub-region yet to fully recover from instability. What would you say Ghana's chances are as far as security issues are concerned? Like a quick analysis. What is our chances in the sub-region?
I don't get your drift very well.
Yes.
What are the challenges?
The influence as far as, what is Ghana's influence in the sub-region?
We have heard,
political-wise, security-wise.
we have held our own against all odds. In terms of security, the Ghana situation is very resolute. We've been able to hold our own against the rest, where we have kept our security very intact, kept our borders very intact, such that we are able, even in cases that we have recorded, what do we call it, coup d'etats, we've been able to come out of the coup d'etat and crafted for ourselves democracy, and we've got to understand that this is what we have created for ourselves, democracy, and that we are not going to go back to military rule or the rule of the security. So we have been able, unlike other places where other factors have also impinged on the matters of security, where in fact the security issue is not a standalone issue. Other factors also impinge on that. For instance, if you have crafted for yourself a constitutional rule or a democratic rule where you are to change over every 4 years and you are committed to it, such that unlike what my colleague said, somebody could get up one day and say that due to certain concerns that people are raising, we can change over and then change from maybe every 4 years to every 6 years, or change from finishing your term after the second term and then continuing, trying your luck. Once you are accepted, you continue to remain in power. You understand it? So if, for instance, all these things are intact for us, we are adhering to the 4-year term system, and everybody has equal opportunity of also assigning the throne, so to speak, then you don't have any serious security concerns in terms of this, because then everybody waits in line for his turn. It's not that Peter is going to be in power forever, because at each election year he has the right to stand, and once the people vote for him, whether they even voting for him or he is even influencing the process to his advantage, he will come into power. But after the 8th year, at long last, he will go out of power, and another person will have the opportunity. So you don't have the leeway to influence security, to take certain actions in favor of the masses. People don't get fed up with one person in power in perpetuity. So we think that our security situation is intact, and it is not susceptible to certain factors that are prevalent in other territories.
Yeah, let me add that, you know, after 92, I mean, after 10 years of military rule, you had the challenge of changing from a military leader to a democratically elected, and then also within the police and especially the military, you had people who had power, exercise power by themselves over a period of 10 years. Now you change into democratically elected government. How are you going to deal with residual power that some of these individuals thought they had? And I think one of the things Ghana did was to do civil-military relations, subordinating the police and the military to civilian control. And so there were lots of seminars, workshops, and all of that, along with continuing to look at what the issues were of concern to them. When you look at coup d'etats are made based on what those who lead the coup perceive to be, first, the issues that were of concern to them that had not been resolved within the military, and that finds connection to the public. So if there's a perception of corruption within the general population, it gives an opportunity for, you know, some of these upheavals to occur. So when you look at the military periods, those were some of the, you know, concerns which, you know, some of the military people used to unseat power. So what we did, you know, Ghana did, was to ensure that we were doing a lot of things at the same time, subordinating the military to civilian rule. And you know, in a democracy, it's the police, that's the boss, right? Because they maintain law and order. So, so once all of these actions were going on, along with continuous public education, it was fairly, you know, it became a little smoother for us to hold on. And as you know, we continue to enjoy a democracy based on speech as well. The people can also go to court when they are aggrieved. Like in the case of the Electoral Commission, people had to go to court to have their rights observed. I think the biggest threat to Ghana's democracy is hunger. It's hunger. We need an economic system which will ensure that people have jobs, people can put food on the table, and all of that. It's just democracy that exists now is just, you know, changing over government, and you know, lots of the policies don't trickle down. And that's one of the things that we need to work on. Every democracy, sometimes when it's transitioning, can have some of these institutional issues, but we need to work on these and make sure that, you know, the bread and butter issues are being taken care of. Because democracy that doesn't put food on the table can be a challenge.
Right. A quick analysis of Ghana's influence in regional politics.
Well, that we influencing the other region on their politics. I think the influence is coming from the fact that most of the African countries are actually seeing Ghana as the championing of good cause in terms of democracy. And so because of that, our influence is that very key. I mean, most people, even a lot of countries are seeing Ghana as let's say if we give Ghana something, Ghana can actually handle it. Even those that they themselves believe in other dictatorship rule or whatever, they still see to the fact that democracy is a key for development. If you want to develop every country, for the country to move forward, you need to align yourself to democracy. And so the influence is very, very clear. But as to in terms of security and actually doing other things, it's not that easy because every country is seen as a sovereign. They see themselves as we are having our own rules, we are having our own constitution, we are having our everything that we are having. And the laws that we are, the country is having is based on the jurisdiction of that particular country. And so even though we can influence in terms of economic issue, and that is how come we have the ECOWAS, we have the AU, and other policies, in terms of the country itself, it is very, very, very difficult for any country to just go and influence their system of operating. However, looking at or having Ghana championing democracy and whatever, we can actually also influence in terms of economic issues to our advantage, whereby trade and other things for us to actually trade with them, for us to also send our goods to them and whatever. And also champion a little policy that will be good for our country. But to influence their security, to influence their rule of laws and whatever, it is not going to be that easy. Some way, somehow, during in terms of coming together as AU or ECOWAS or whatever union that Africa and West Africa is having, sometimes during that particular process, you can influence your way through by bringing other policies that will even tune the country that is not practicing democracy even down, so that other things that will actually punish them for them to accept democracy. You can influence them on that area. But for example, if a country is changing their constitution, if a country is standing up to say that we are going to do this, it is very, very difficult for any country to actually go in and influence the process.
To add to it, indeed Ghana has influenced a lot of countries in the sub-region. Let us not forget, Benin has been doing same. Cape Verde has been doing same. Now, my concern is about security, and I've been hammering on it. The issue to have a peaceful election is key. Zambia, the only African country that has declared itself a Christian nation, used to be the oasis of peace in the southern African region. This year, when they were having the election, it wasn't that peaceful. There were clashes between the UPND, the United Party for National Development, Hakainde Ichelemen's people, and the Patriotic Front, Edgar Chagwalungu's people. People died. They prided themselves in maintaining peace. They said, we are peaceful people. The president will pray publicly with the opposition people. However, when it came to the elections, people died. That is why I have been hammering on the issue of peace. Cephas will tell you, I always ask him this question when I speak with him. I said, what is the deployment? How is the collaboration with these political parties? Because if there will be anything, it will come from partisans, people who support parties. The pronouncement and rhetoric on TV, on radio, social media platforms, these are key. And I guess that might have contributed to an idea that the IGP floated, that possibly we should consider blocking social media platform, although some people are saying it sharply contravenes the Constitution, which gives freedom of speech. However, how do we marry these two narratives? The issue of maintaining peace, law and order during elections to ensure people's lives are protected and property as well. How do you resolve those things? So I ask Cephas, how confident are you that the police will ensure Ghanaians go to the polls in peace, vote in peace, return home in peace, and when the election results are declared, there will be peace in the country?
Well, that's a question to me, right? Yeah. And I want to indicate that we are sure, and we can assure Ghanaians that this election will end in peace, so that we shall continue to live in peace. I say this because of certain factors that are available. First is the fact that ever since we returned to democratic rule in 1992 again, we have held about 6 elections already. And within the precincts of this election, we have recorded sometimes more acrimony. But each time we get to the brink, we are able to cross over without any difficulty at all. So this fever, this tension that we are experiencing with this particular election is not peculiar to this particular election. It has been with other elections, and sometimes in the past it's been more pronounced, it's more very tensed than it is today. So that one gives me, one, it gives me the hope that we are going to weather the storm once again. 2, the very fact that we have adequately prepared for this particular election, so adequately prepared in all terms, not only in terms of logistics, equipment, and personnel. This particular time around, quite apart from preparing in terms of logistics, equipment, and personnel, we have prepared by way of building friendship with all the stakeholders, dialoguing, engaging all the stakeholders to this election in the best way to get to the election and cross it without any let or hindrance. As I have indicated to you, we have met with the National Media Commission, the Electoral Commission, the media, the Christian Council, the Catholic Bishops Conference, the Islamic leadership of the country, Macho Men Association of Ghana, Confederation of Disabled Organizations, and almost everybody who matters in this election, and especially 4 groupings within the political parties, and at about 5 meetings, during which we all discussed the best way to go about this election, where we all came into a consensus that we need peace, and that everything that bothers anybody must be discussed in an atmosphere of free and fair, so that we can together put our shoulders to the wheel. Because we have done all these, and we have got assurances of the various stakeholders, especially the political parties, it's our hope that once again we shall weather the storm. And then about the 4th or 5th efforts, and further, that gives me the hope that we are about to make history again, is the fact that the police and their sister security agencies have even traversed into the borders of other stakeholders or other agencies, like what I have in front of me, where we have flyers with pieces of information for members of the general public. I mean, telling them or showing them what they have to, how they have to carry themselves during the election, the do's and don'ts of the election. Ordinarily, it's not the work for the Ghana Police Service. It is the work for National Commission on Civic Education and other agencies. But we have gone into that arena to do it because we're not seeing it. I have with me down here, excuse me, so many things, including posters that we have done to educate members of the public. And this is by the police, not by the National Commission on Civic Education. So for the first time, we have gone far, far beyond bounds as to what we can do, and ensured that, quite apart from getting ourselves ready in terms of logistics, once again, equipment, because we have got our pepper sprays ready, tear gases ready, water cannons ready. We have got our handcuffs, baton, shields to manage public order situations. Everything is ready. We could have ended at that point and waited for the D-Day so that we go into action. But no, we said that we must engage. It's when we see the election, all the stakeholders see the election through the same spectacles, that we can have peace. If we prepared and even brought American police or Metropolitan Police and all the police in the world to come and join us, and the people, the stakeholders, decided that they will cause rowdyism, they will cause disturbances at polling station, then we will not have a peaceful atmosphere within which to carry out the election. So that's why we went across and brought them on board, and also went to this extent of printing some of these things so that the people of Ghana can read, it can get imprinted on their minds, so that if anybody tries to do something, he remembers, oh, the police said election is not war. It can weather the storm. So I believe that with all these things and the good nature of Ghanaians, and I think it is something that I wanted to chip in when we were looking at why Ghana, we are in peace and other countries are not in peace. I think there's something inborn that is peculiar to Ghanaians, and that the spirit of communalism is inborn in us, coupled with other factors. That is why I think we are not as exposed, as vulnerable to wars and conflicts as our other sister countries.
Let me add that, you know, we did a survey and we had 7 issues which respondents were responding to. One of them was also peace and security, along with cost of living, jobs, infrastructure, development, education, health. And then we asked respondents to rank these issues in order of importance, the ones that they really felt, and peace and security was the last. Now, it did not mean that it didn't matter to them, but it was of the least concern to them because they didn't think that it was going to be an issue. The other thing too is really that since 1992, there's been a cumulative build-up of peace campaigns, and these have been cutting through. The most significant flashpoints were in 2000, where we had the second round. Yeah. There was a change from the NDC to the NPP, and then again in 2008, where we were all sitting on tenterhooks with the time constituency thing. And of course, we are getting again in 2016. I think that, you know, we continue to improve on the situation. It does not mean that we should take anything for granted, but I think that over time we are continuing to show that even if there were flashes, those flashes will be contained, and we will do a better job than America did when Trump was elected.
Is that the case, Peter?
well, post-election bias. It's a different ball game when it comes to the U.S. election, because there are so many competing factors. President-elect Trump tapped into something that has been existing since President Obama came into office. And I remember the Tea Party movement. I mean, they used to come to our offices and shout at us and all kinds of stuff. But he tapped into something that was readily available. Don't forget, he defeated 16 others in the Republican primaries. 16 others. So you can't just dismiss him for dismissing his sake. People did that. I had the cause of having some cabinet ministers in Africa calling me, sending me text messages telling me, Hillary is winning. You guys, what are you doing? Just vote for Hillary. I said, it doesn't work that way. The process has to be followed. Once it's followed, whoever is victorious, there are some losers, of course, who will go on demonstrating, he isn't our president, or whatever it is. Once the system is concluded, it is concluded. I like the fact that, to some extent, Ghanaians have been able to calm the system down, use the process in terms of the court to address any concerns they have. Sometimes they are a little uncomfortable when you have to sit down and look at what is going on, and sometimes you perceive this judge is not doing right. He or she is siding with this party, that is why he or she is doing such and such. It happened in 2000 when Al Gore lost the election. It went to the Supreme Court ruled, and it was in favor of then President-elect Bush. So once the system is established, once Ghanaians repose confidence in the system and they realize that the system works, then any results that come from it will be acceptable to them. However, if there is some perception of corruption in the system, that is where the problem begins. So let's see how it goes. How confident do Ghanaians are about the system of not only the Electoral Commission, which is constitutionally mandated to administer elections in this country, but the judicial system as well, that is supposed to act as the referee when there is any election dispute. It remains to be seen.
But I actually also think that Ghanaians are beginning to trust the system.
The system.
Yeah, in the fact that you can see that gone are the days. I mean, very few people will take their matter to court. I mean, which is another arm of governance. So here is the case now. What we are saying is that anything that one needs to challenge, instead of becoming violence or telling people or going to radio stations to say certain things, as they begin to get to know that this one we cannot trust it, they take it to the appropriate context and to deal with it. And as you rightly said, whether the judge sitting down is toning a line to a particular line or not, that is another question altogether. But the fact that we are beginning to trust the system, okay, and you see sometimes it is quite difficult, and I blame this the politicians as well. Sometimes they try to throw dust into the eye of this same institution that we want the people to believe and trust. And I will believe that even though an institution is doing something wrong, okay, if you cannot take that institution to court, I will prefer that engage the institution even in the dark and let that institution know that what he or she, that institution is doing, or the leader of that particular institution is doing is not right. If that institution decide not to turn to the direction that you wish, then you can take it to court. But here we are, what we end up hearing is that within the twinkle of an eye, even though they have an issue with a particular institution, they are on radio, they are on TV, saying certain things, tarnishing the same image of this institution that you wish that Ghanaians will trust the system and accept that particular institution. But I think that the police is also actually doing marvelously well, and that is why I'm not surprised that in your survey they were not much concerned about security. And it tells us that graduate Ghanaians are trying to also accept the police, that, oh, I mean, they are there, irrespective of whatever it is. If you have a problem, you can take it to the police. Gone are the days. It was quite difficult. People will see the police and they will run away, thinking that the police is coming to do something against them. Meanwhile, they've not done anything wrong. But here is the case: the police are coming closer to us. We are beginning to also trust the system, begin to also know that they are with us. And as much as they are with us, we now accept them for them to be with us. So I think that Ghanaians are beginning to trust the system, and that will be very good for us if we indeed rally behind these particular institutions that we have.
Can I add that since this is an election and we have a body that's been mandated to, hold the election, that the conduct of the Electoral Commission in this matter is also very important. And personally, I would have wished that there had been a better improvement than the way the EC has conducted itself. He mentioned, that they're quite disappointed that people go on radio and the media and try to denigrate. Part of it is the EC's own doing. Okay, it's the EC's own doing, because I think the EC has not held itself up within the philosophy that it is supposed to have a participatory approach. From observing from the disqualification of some of the presidential candidates to some of the issues that he's been having even with the media as well, the EC's approach, in my view, has been more of a restriction rather than engagement. And so hopefully these things will not be front and center during election day and afterwards, but getting a good election, a peaceful election, is not just on the voting day. It starts way up.
Exactly.
And I hope that the EC will learn from this year's election and then, be able to improve the process by being more participatory than being restrictive.
Well, if I may ask these gentlemen here, how has been the education from the EC to the Ghanaian population, prospective voters for that matter, because they will go to the polls to choose the new president and new parliament? How engaged has the EC been with the Ghanaian population in terms of educating them to know their rights, responsibilities, and protecting the vote for that matter?
You see, the EC is an institution, okay, that works within a particular parameter, framework. I don't think it's quite the sole duty of the EC to do that education. It's the NCC who have that particular power.
I hear they are broke.
Well, that is a different argument altogether. And so, irrespective of the fact that they are broke, you see, sometimes I find it difficult for an institution to say that, oh, we are broke, the government is not giving us this. When you position yourself well, you will be identified. Okay, you can solicit for funds somewhere if people get to know that you are doing a good cause.
But do they have the legal framework to raise funds?
Well, if they approach in that one can also be a restriction, all right. But even so, you have the power to also propose an amendment on your own policies that you are running, if that is a challenge. What have you done so far? This whole years since '92 to date, you have this power. If that is a restriction, you could have. The point is that we need to be innovatively inclined in soliciting for funds. Okay, even if you don't have money, you can approach in various ways for you to get. We have a lot of NGOs who are even getting funds somewhere to run their businesses. For what is the NCC doing? You cannot solely rely on the government for funds. If you are broke, you are broke. Use a different means so that you can educate us. And I will not sit here to clap for them that because they don't have funds. I'm looking at the fact that you have not done your job that has been given to you. So you cannot come and tell me that you don't have funds, and so what do you want me to do?
Yeah, before you come in, one quick question. I asked the question because the police, Cephas is telling us, have been proactive enough to go to an extent of educating the people on what to do and what not to do, in terms of them being helped to protect the situation. That's why I'm asking, what would they do in their own, within the framework that they have, to engage people?
Let me, if I may, see, when it comes to elections, the Electoral Commission has the duty, it is in the Act which set it up, to engage in public education on the voting process.
Right.
It has that duty. The cost of its administrative expenses is charged on the consolidated fund.
Right.
We taxpayers pay for it. So first of all, it is the EC's primary duty to educate voters on the election, in addition to holding the elections. Now, to educate the public, the EC itself is not a media house. You have to look at that role versus the role of other bodies which are not part of your establishment. Therefore, that will help define the kind of relationship that you should have with the agencies or that are outside of state. So the media, for example. The media under Article 1625 also has been given a responsibility. So the EC's relationship that it should have with the media should be partnership. Because there is, the EC, if it has to engage in public education, part of it will be to pay for airtime, put adverts in the newspapers. But a significant amount will come from free time. And the free time you get is based on the relationship that you have with the media. So when you antagonize the media, in small things like pay 10 Ghana or 20 Ghana before we can give you accreditation to cover an election, which is not, you are not covering because you are going to make money, but because you are getting that privilege so you can educate the public. You are missing the point.
I think that I hold the view that I see a silver lining in the work of the EC over the past couple of months, where the EC has decided to make some changes in its public affairs department, and they have tended to engage the public more and more, and tended to put some of the activities and the operation in public domain better than it used to do. So I think that this thing has done, the awareness has done on the EC to also engage its various publics so as to forge the best way together with its public. So I think that the EC over the past couple of months, 3-4 months, is improving, and it's something that we need to support them. I mean, give them the necessary fillip so that they can continue on that target, so that all of us will have some credible EC.
Well, I would say since I got in touch with the spokespersons of the EC, they have been forthcoming. However, I just want to find out, what the relationship with the Ghanaian media and how they're engaging to basically educate Ghanaians ahead of the elections. Well, we'll go for a short break and we'll be back.
So in our day-to-day practice of journalism, we get the opportunity to write on a litany of issues ranging from politics, business, health, religion, and what have you. We seek to bring this experience onto one platform, the Reporters Roundtable. My name is Morris Ogbete. Watch the Reporters Roundtable on GBC24 every Thursday.
Watch Reporters Roundtable and get in touch with some of the best brains in the field of journalism. It's a good program. All the best.
But my name is Mumin and I am a reporter. In 2012, I covered the elections extensively, but I never got an opportunity to tell you the stories behind the stories. This time around, there's a Reporters Roundtable where I, together with some of my colleagues, will be telling you the stories behind the stories.
Hi, welcome back to Reporters Roundtable. We're holding discussions about the Ghanaian election, and our folks are here to expatiately throw more light on the Ghanaian election, peace, democracy, and the rest. And let me come back to you, Cephas. With the allegations of police bias, allegations of police wanting one party or the other to win the election at all costs, with allegations that Mr. Kwadwo has, I don't know if he's turned himself into a chameleon or whatever, going across the border to other people to open the borders for them to vote. How is the police addressing some of these issues?
Yeah, thank you very much. And let me say that, to begin with, these allegations are unfounded. A large portion of it is fueled by the fact that some people have decided to cause disaffection for the police service. Of course, there are a few issues that have happened that could give anybody the impression that the police, in one way or the other, are not trying to help certain situations. Of course, once again, certain infractions have happened in the course of electioneering campaign and in the course of the limited voters registration exercise that the public doesn't know about the effort that the police has made. Of course, we have to let the public know certain things, but this is a security institution. It's not everything that you can put in the public domain until you have reached a certain stage in the process of investigation or in the process of carrying out the case. Like that's why yesterday, for instance, we came out to let the public know the progress we have made in some of the cases that were recorded. So we mentioned the Talensi by-election, we mentioned the Abdullah Naba, we mentioned the what we call the Jumakun Bisiazi issue, and the 4 people that we have arrested and put before court, and they are presently on remand concerning the attack that they had on the MPP MP in, is it a Sunafusaf or something. So we mentioned about 7, 8 of the cases that, in fact, MPP even listed and presented to the police. They listed about 11. And we made the public know the effort we have made so far, except that it is not in all cases. It's like the policing or the security services. Our activities are not like the football match, excuse me to say, where you have to give a minute by minute or even second by second commentary. But then occasionally it behooves us to come out to let the public know the effort we are making. Perhaps it is they're not coming out sometimes quite regularly. That is giving the impression that the police are not doing anything, that we are on the half of any particular political party. Otherwise, it is far from the truth that the police will want to support one political party. And it has been like that ever since time immemorial. Anytime any political party is on the side of the opposition, they tend to see the police in the bad light. But that is not the case. On the issue of the IGP, going to the going to Aflao and telling the officers there that on the voting day they should open the borders for people to come and vote, irrespective of your eligibility to vote. It is as flimsy as it is wild, because the IGP hasn't got the power, and he indicated it yesterday in the press conference that he held, or his power doesn't traverse the borders of Ghana to Togo, whereby he can go and command Togo officials that, hey, on the voting day, open your distance. And then he doesn't also command the immigration, neither does he command the custom officers to ask them to open the borders. And I think what he said, which has been misconstrued, perhaps some people didn't like it, is the fact that nobody, and he asked us to emphasize it, that nobody can prevent any eligible voter from voting. And that is a fact, because if I'm an eligible voter and I'm living in UK, US, New Zealand, Australia, Papua New Guinea, Algeria, Cameroon, South Africa, and on the day of voting, I decide to come, who are you to prevent me from voting? I am eligible voter. Of course. And so I must be allowed to vote.
The emphasis on eligibility.
That is what he said. So he didn't say that custom officers and immigration officers should open the borders of Ghana to Togo and allow anybody to come in. The IGP cannot do that. You understand it? The IGP cannot do that. And so it is very unfortunate that people want to paint the police in a very bad light. But the IGP did indicate that this will never break our resolve to ensuring a peaceful election. They may come, but unfortunately what happens is that sometimes it erodes some confidence in members of the public, confidence that they have in the police, so that it makes the work of policing more difficult. Otherwise, for us, we are resolved to do our work without any let or hindrance.
Without you divulging the plan of action that police would have to implement in case there's trouble, my question is there a backup plan with the other security agencies? Because the police came out saying that there are so many flashpoints. The Electoral Commission did same. Is there a backup plan for other security agencies to help should there anything happen? I'm not saying it will, but there has to be a plan.
Indeed, any security agency that will not design its security arrangements such that it will always have a backup plan, or it will have a standby team, or a plan B, sometimes plan C, plan D, to handle all contingencies or exigencies, is not worth its salt. So as I can confirm you, because it is even in public domain, we are going to have about 4-tier security arrangement for this election. The first is the police officer or the immigration officer or the custom officer that you see at the police station, holding his baton, perhaps with handcuffs. And then just around him, the various constituencies are going to be divided into smaller areas, and patrol teams better prepared with the requisite equipment and logistics, patrolling within their small area of jurisdiction, so that their presence, police presence, will be felt more regularly, and people who have intention of causing harm or causing disturbances will see them and pause. Then just after this second ring, we have a third ring where standby teams have been put at vantage points within the constituencies. And when the police station officer is overwhelmed and the patrol team go in, they are not able to weather the storm, then this standby team, advancedly equipped, will come in with a stronger force to quell the disturbances. And then we have our friends from the military, who will be in a very remote distance, waiting to be called into. But we hope that it doesn't get to the point where the military comes in, so that they can also come in with a more advanced force, a more advanced preparation, more advanced logistical and equipment standing to come and solve the problem. So I can assure you that even talking about the flashpoint or the hotspots, there is security arrangement for that. In fact, it is in our bid to ensure that we neutralize those places and render them soft spots, that we set out to identify those places. So having identified them, we identified over 1,000, a little over 5,000. And EC identified about 94. They did it on constituency basis. We did it on polling station basis. So when we did the comparison, it's about the same thing. we have already designed, and some part of our strategy is already in motion. The intelligence already, officers have gone. They went as long as 2 months, 3 months ago, and started picking pieces of intelligence and passing them on to the base for assessment. And that has been informing our duties, patrol duties and other things. Then on the voting day, if every police station is going to have only one security officer, depending on the magnitude of the danger that any hotspot poses, we will make it about 3-2. And then we'll demarcate the patrol area into smaller ones so that they could be frequenting the police station within the small patrol area. Yeah. So we have a lot at stake, and it's our belief that Ghanaians, with their usual calm and peace-loving nature, there's nothing that we should fear.
That's quite scary. He didn't even mention the drones as well, right? Yeah. There'll be drones.
Yeah, we have a number of drones that we are going to use to aid our work.
Sophistication. now, Cephas, on election day, within the election precinct or the election area where people will vote, will there be a little cordoned area so people will not encroach the area where people will have concern of possible intimidation of prospective voters and all that?
That is what we intend doing, and that's what we have started doing. Those of you who have finished, visited a few of the voting polling stations, you have seen that we use tape to cordon off a certain perimeter where you are not allowed to disturb, to interrupt. Other people are outside it. So a passage is created for you, come in to vote and you go. And for those who are insisting that they want to stand there and watch the voting process till the end of it, at worst, that is where they could be held beyond the tape. But we are praying that people do not try to congregate there. After you vote, you have to go home and come back when it's time for counting. Because once you congregate there, you could be discussing the process. Some tempers could be flying, and it could lead to the disruption of the process. It may not be necessarily somebody coming to pick the ballot box and running away, but your discussion, your seemingly innocuous discussion after you have cast your vote, and then could lead to some inflammatory situation that could mar the integrity of the process.
Right, it is still the Reporters Roundtable. We are discussing the matter from all angles and from all sides. I have some of your messages in. This one says, my name is Seidu Mohammed from Fadama. I beg to differ with the police action because their action indicates that they are biased. But we do not have to blame them because majority of them are not ethically professional. Wow, Seidu. I guess this comment is not a fair one to the police. Blocking social media is a brilliant idea. Therefore, it should be carried on because even now as we speak, false rumors has already started circulating, and definitely if this is not addressed properly, it will surely bring chaos. I am for peace and I support the decision of the IGP. Unfortunately, you did not add your name. We have another one here that says some police and security officers are having problems in the special voting locating their names. When the EC displayed the register for confirmation of their names, did they confirm their names or they looked on whilst the exercise and took the exercise for granted? It could also be some of the problems they are encountering today. My name is Kofi in Accra. Thank you, Kofi. Those who will go according to the law should be dealt with. This one is from Ramsey Chachu Tamaklu. And yeah, the same message, you sent it twice, Ramsey. Thank you very much. This one says, please, I want to know if those whose names aren't in the register can vote on 7th December, and if their names isn't in the register on 7th, what are they doing to that? Wow, Brown from Eugene. I guess we do not have a panel member from the EC to answer that, but I don't know whether we could hazard a guess. If your name is not in it and subsequently it does not appear on December 7th, is there a remedy?
Yeah, I think it should be that after the election today, special voting today, the EC would, sit back and get with stakeholders and then determine what the way forward that should be. But I think at the very least they need to communicate to the public about what steps that are going to be taken, what remedial steps that are going to be taken to ensure that no one would be disenfranchised.
Prof.
Yeah, but I also agree with him. I think the EC at this time, maybe after today's voting, they need to come out to engage the public as to the way forward, because people actually begin to panic within the system as to whether they are going to be disenfranchised or whatever. And bear it in mind, nobody can disenfranchise anyone for whatsoever reason unless the person is not eligible to vote. And so if the EC decides not to tone a particular line which will not be seen as to disenfranchising a particular person, then that one will be a good cause for us. So we will expect that the EC will actually come out quickly to if the EC is affirming to the situation that we are hearing, and then also what are the necessary steps that they are taking in order for those people to go and cast their vote, because they need not to be disenfranchised in casting their vote. They need to vote. So the EC to quickly come out with a particular timetable and let us know that what is the way forward from now, because from now to 7th we have only about 6 days left. So what is left for them to go and cast their vote, and we need to know.
I witnessed an interesting thing at the Electoral Commission the other time. Some people still do not know the constituency where they're supposed to vote. So I had an EC official telling them, okay, you go to this constituency, if that is where you registered, just go there and go and vote. They still don't know.
But that is a problem. You see, the EC gave, not only the education, the EC gave the chance for all of us to go and verify. And then this particular, they did education, they did radio and TV advert for everybody to go and verify. And the EC came out with a report that very few people went to verify. And so this is the problem. If you fail to go and verify, then you have this particular problem. Because the EC is also an institution.
Absolutely.
That's why he gave you the chance. Verify here. Then, because you see, the problem is that this particular EC decided to split the polling stations. Okay, so it is possible that if your name is in polling station A, now they've split it into A and B, so you will be in even C. So if you have gone to verify, then you will know that my name that is supposed to have been in A all along now is in C. So you go to A, at the end of the day you will not see. So if you decide not to go and verify, that is the problem that we are facing.
Yeah, but I think still the onus is on the EC. A registered voter, after registering, the onus, the burden passes on to the EC. And so in as much as likely voters will have to check when there's a display of the register, it's still, that burden did not shift from the EC to the likely voter. Because you have what, 15.7 million people that register. The first point is to register. When there's a display of the register, you can be sure that not even, a quarter or 1/10 of the people will go. So the first point should be the accuracy of the records, which is in the custody of the EC, and for which the EC has the primary responsibility to ensure that those who registered in the places that they registered, their names will be there, so that when they go to vote. Of course, there's secondary responsibility, but primarily it is the EC's duty to ensure that people who register in A should have their names where they said that they would be registered.
Okay, Peter.
Well, I was a little surprised when I witnessed it, but the EC official at that time was very gracious, directed them where to go. Even when he did that, they still couldn't find it. And that was a little to be confusing, because if you registered at station A or station B, you should be able to go there, verify your name or whatever. If you went to register at a certain specific place, he wasn't there, yet he's telling you where to go, and you said, well, I don't know where it is. I found it very confusing, but I hope some of these things could be addressed in time before the election on December 7. I hope everything runs smoothly, because the EC had come out to engage the public. I know for a fact because I asked some of them. However, the criticisms they have been, you know, put under sometimes can be quite intense. I wonder how they will address some of these latest problems in time for the election.
Let me take your final words, Superintendent. I know you want to leave us. So that
very much.
What are you assuring the populace of? We have barely 6 days to election 2016.
That when it comes to security,
yes,
the police and their sister security agencies are not leaving any stone unturned in our bid to ensure a peaceful election, and that we are calling on all to come on board and desist from acts that will disturb the security of the election, and that if anybody was foolhardy enough and dared the security agency, we shall deal with them according to the law.
Right. We want to thank you very much for passing through. We know you quickly would want to leave us, but we have some messages in here. Before I come to Peter to give us the perspective from the outside world, how the media is viewed here, because some have this perceived opinion that the media in Ghana now is out of control. Do you think same? I'll come back to you quickly. This one says, even at the original constituency, I could not find my name. What then happens afterwards since I'm on duty on December 7? My name is Ephraim Ajigli. Thank you, Ephraim. I think the EC will address that right from today. We will get to know what happens next. So do not worry at all. Please, I'm Adam, a police officer. I have verified my name at police depot and my name was in the EC list. But when the special voting list came out, my name was not in the list. Now my question is, what happens if I'm on duty on that day? I think your boss is here. He will find a way out for you, Adam. My name is Ambassador from Fadama. Again, if I can recall, the day people want to go to Electoral Commission to present their grievances, the police behaved unprofessionally and forgot the 2008 elections, where a large number of Ghanaians invaded the Electoral Commission demanding the right things to do, so that they asked the police. Oh, Adam, I think I can get your submission straight, but as the policeman, did the security that day beat the demonstrators? The policeman is out of my studio now, Adam, but you know exactly what transpired on that day, and I think that has been dealt with to the core. Let's talk about justice. Nobody is talking about that, but we continue preaching peace. How can there be peace without justice? Right, Peter, your perspective from the outside world. You have been there, flying the flag of Ghana so high. What is your perception about the media in Ghana?
Well, monitoring the media from afar sometimes is quite strange because as much as there's freedom of speech, there has to be responsibility. You can't just open your network out for people to be denigrating people, pouring out vitriolic attacks. You can't do that. One of the core mandates of these people is to educate the people. So if you how are you educating them? And sometimes when you are out there, things that you hear, it's as if the whole country is on fire. One political party goes on the air, says one thing, the other comes, says another thing. Ethnic tensions are being fanned. Sometimes it's a little, I feel sorry sometimes when I monitor it. However, when I came in, I saw and heard people really discussing issues. And I was asking myself, why wasn't I hearing some of these things ahead of time? And now so I think we need to be very careful, those in the media. We need to be very, very careful. We shouldn't allow people to be insulting other people on the network, one. And then if there is anybody who is trying to fund any sort of division, we should be able to tell them, you got to tone it down and try to discuss issues rather than personalities. Because when you discuss issues, people will learn and people will follow as such. Failure to do that, then Ghanaians have themselves to blame.
Prof, is the Ghanaian media out of control?
Not necessarily, but the problem has to do with the fact that most these days the politicians are also trying to push themselves into owning media houses, and for that matter, they try to influence what the people need to hear, and so they will always prefer that the media will turn to their direction, especially in the dispensation that we find ourselves at this particular moment, and so you will see that most for their own selfish political gain, they try to own a media house, own all those medias, and allow them to say certain things to their favor. And the problem is that the media also, a media man, I mean, they have their own ethics that they need to also follow. And we always expect that they will report the good things and the right thing, and then based on issues, not lying themselves to a particular political party for them to turn a particular political way. If the media give themselves out for this quote-unquote bias reporting, sometimes you even take a particular newspaper, you read the headline, but the content is different. And so you find out that there is conflict. Why would somebody, insult such a person, out there? Because the content is different from even the headline. They would just intentionally, in quote, intentionally paint the picture inside that the person who will not have the chance to read the content will take it as it is. And that is the negative aspect. But irrespective of that, some of them are doing marvelously well. They tone the line that their ethics tells them to do. And they don't care about which political party is in power or whoever they are. They report as it is. And they tone the line inside that everybody will see. But sometimes, you see, if you don't position yourself when you try to do other negative things, what they forget is that somebody will also pick your wrong, okay, and capitalize on it in another country to project that they are the best and doing the best thing. And so if you are in your own home country, you are supposed to tone the line that is right, just, and then go to that direction. But if you try to be biased towards a particular cause, you have yourself to be blamed. The media, you are in the media, and you want people to trust you because you belong to the media. A lot of media houses are given the chance to go and vote to be part of this special voting. Why? Because they have been seen that also they are part of special people or personalities, and as much as they are supposed to be given the chance so that they can actually report on the election day. But here we are, it is possible that some of the media houses or some of the journalists and whatever may end up even not reporting exactly what is it, or they may end up exaggerating as to the true situation. If that actually happens, then it means that you are tarnishing the same image of the profession that you align yourself to.
Let me come in quickly before you get in. In the mature democracies, there are some media houses that brand themselves as left or to the right. Now, if that is what you want to do, let the listeners know.
Exactly.
So they know what to pick and what not to pick. Don't try to muddy the waters pretending to be what you don't. Ghana's democracy is growing. It has room to improve. If you want to copy the Western style, fine. Nobody can tell you not to. But please let your listeners know that, okay, I align myself to party A or party B. There is Fox News in the US that there are some personalities who vouched for President-elect Trump way before. Okay. But they set themselves apart that this is what we're going to do. There's MSNBC that aligns itself to the left, supporting Hillary Clinton, or Secretary Clinton for that matter. These things happen, but please let people know. Rather than you have people sitting back speculating that, you might belong to A or you might belong to B. I guess there's more time for that to happen. Let's see.
No, I was going to say that the media is not monolithic. Media organizations are established by people. Some of these people may be just businessmen, others may be also journalists or communicators, and others will be politicians. It is part of what you see in the democratic space. And I typically distinguish, some of these issues from people in the media who have received training, who are the front line as journalists, and others who are just sometimes picked up the street and they host programs. Regardless, there should be the media houses themselves should impose a responsibility on themselves that they have a duty to the public, even if they are running purely on a commercial basis.
More especially in an election year.
In an election year. I think that, you know, training, continuous training, and of course equipment. I don't know if some of these media houses, especially electronic ones, which are the ones which cause trouble, but in the sense that the spoken word goes very fast. It takes a while for you to print and, you know, go and publish a newspaper. For the impact is different. So I do hope that if in terms of equipment, whether you can have that delayed, you know, broadcast, when you say something, it takes a few seconds before, so it can be wiped out. But that self-policing is very important. The other check is by the public. In the public space, the public determines which media houses that, you know, they would rate according to their own preferences. As he said, in the U.S., you know, we have left, right-leaning. We have Rush Limbaugh, whom, you know, I mean, I lived in the U.S. for 13 years, and I could only listen to him for just 1 minute, one time, and I just turned it off. But there are people who tune into that, and we do have some of these media-leaning types in Ghana. Should their political leanings, should they make it clear, as Peter is saying, or, you know, they should operate the way they are operating, and the public, the discerning public, will decide. When I tune into a radio station in Ghana, you know, hopefully, you know, you guys will all agree that I'm discerning enough. I can tell where everybody's, but it's not everybody who, you know, has the background and all of that. So in the continuing democratic space, we need to continue to discuss.
All right, we are still discussing Ghana in the eyes of the world, and I have here an international journalist, Peter Clottey, who hosts 101 with Peter Clottey on the VOA. I have William Nyarko, who is also the Chief Executive Director of Asila, and Professor Asiamah, who is also a governance expert. Earlier we had the Superintendent Cephas Arthur, who is the Public Affairs Director of Ghana Police here, but he has left us. We have few messages here, but we'll go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll do that. My name is Rebekah Awuah. Keep watching the Reporters Roundtable with GBC24 this and every other Thursday.
I'm Theodora Medeto. Join Becky and other colleague journalists on Reporters Roundtable this and every Thursday.
This is the show where we tackle the issues from all angles and from all sides, and it is the Reporters Roundtable, the only platform in this continent, or in Ghana for that matter, that discusses or gives journalists the platform to discuss issues that pertain to them beyond what is printed in the newspaper, what is posted online, or what is aired on television or on radio. It is proudly supported by Health West Ghana, Ideal College, L.A.S. Liberty School, and Ashirifia Wear. Prof, we've got barely 5 minutes to go. What would you say Ghana can do to deepen its democracy? sustain it for that matter, and the rule of law?
Well, in the first place, I think that we need to trust the institutions that we've put them into check for them to do a particular job. And we also want the institution to also do a good job and do their homework well so that the people will trust them very, very well. We also need to know that Ghana belongs to us, and democracy is a key for Ghana's development. We need to believe in whatever we believe in, and also we have to know that your belief does not necessarily mean that somebody should also believe in that and turn to your own direction. We should actually accept everybody as one, and that Ghana belongs to all of us. And moving forward, if we look at that area, I think it will help us. And then also, we should also begin to trust our governance system. We have the three leg of governance. We have the executive, the judicial, and then the legislative and the legislatures. And at the end of it all, when we trust that particular system of governance, we will move forward. And we know that this is this person's role, this is that person's role. The beauty of Ghanaian governance is the fact that we have seen that all this governance system, they have checks and balances. No one has absolute power. Your power is limited to a particular level. And so when we begin to trust that particular system and give them the free role to play without any influence, it will move the country forward in a particular direction that we all want to see. And that's what Africa is actually also yearning for.
Well, I would say that the institution should earn the trust. I mean, we, as taxpayers, we pay individuals who are, duty bearers to perform the job that has been assigned. If you take our institutions, for example, the Electoral Commission, its expenses is charged on a consolidated fund, and we taxpayers are the ones that provide the funds for the consolidated fund. Other institutions of vertical and horizontal accountability are also, in the same operate within the same framework. And of course, election is a very important way of, giving some power to the elected officials so they can act on your behalf, because not all of us can be in parliament, or not all of us can be president. When individuals are voted into power, they should exercise this power with the fiduciariness that is required. On the larger front, I think that Ghana's democratic governance process will need to see some changes. For example, I don't believe that the framers of our constitution really intended to have checks and balances. You can see that through the legislative and executive fusion that we have, which is having some members of parliament also appointed as ministers. When you are creating a constitution, you can either expand the frontiers of power for elected leaders, or you can restrict it. So, for example, in the U.S., strict separation of powers, right? The executive, the judiciary, and then the Congress with overlapping systems. It was a restriction of power. In Ghana's case, it was an expansion of power. The thinking could have been that, you need to give the executive more power so they can use the power to execute on the mandate. So you have the president has power to appoint more than 5,000 people, and so we really need to really have proper accountability after elections. We need to make sure that day-to-day accountability is key. There are many things that we need to do, including electing district chief executives. When I lived in the state of Virginia, there was never a time that I could look up to the federal government about my electric power going off. Governance is local, so we need to make sure that we have a dichotomy between this big power, big government, Levitian government, and the people from where power is exercised.
Well, I remember President Obama saying here in Accra that Africa needs strong institutions, not strong men. We need, as a people, we need to have strong institutions. And as he said, the institutions must earn the trust of the people. The people would have to also repose confidence in the system. The processes would have to be followed, and there has to be tolerance.
But what should the world look out for as we go to the polls next week?
Well, the world is looking out for a continuation of peace prevailing in Ghana. However, there were concerns when some senior officials from the international community called on the president and some of these main political parties to sign a memorandum of understanding to ensure that their supporters, or for that matter, partisans, do not engage in acts of violence during the electoral process. So I hope people will be committed to that. People are concerned because of the pronouncements that have been made on the electoral electioneering campaigns. So people would have to be really careful about what they say, because people are watching. They want to see what goes on. I gave an example of Zambia, where they prided themselves as Christians being peaceful, abiding, it's innate, it's inborn and all that, but people died. We have to be careful.
Right. Any message of peace in a minute?
Hey, Ghana. Ghana, let's go get it done, and get it done peacefully. We will do it. We will do this one too.
And we can do it.
We can do it.
Well, I believe that we are one people, and Ghana belongs to all of us. And so as we are approaching the polls, we should do it judiciously, and then also not agitating on whatever, no insult. Just go there, cast your vote, and go home, and peacefully we will elect our leader.
C'est poète, they said. Yes, we can.
That was quite brief, and that has been it for the Reporters Roundtable. I have been doing this with my distinguished guest, Peter Clottey, who doubled as a co-host. William Nyarko is with Asila and a journalist as well. Professor Emmanuel Osei Asiamah is a governance expert. My name is Rebekah Awuah. But before I go, let me tell you that the action you take today will determine your success tomorrow. We all know that the journey in pursuing your dreams, yes, it is not easy, but it is achievable. Remember, it is possible if only you believe. The show was produced by Phyllis Kofi, Max Sesu, and Celestine Avi. Thanks to you all, especially my technical crew, my viewers. You know, we love you so much, and we thank you for supporting us throughout the time. And we deeply appreciate the support of L.A.S. Liberty School in 43 Kinshasa Avenue, East Legon, Ideal College. Obviously, you cannot fail. We also acknowledge the support of Ashirifia Wear and Health West Ghana. We are out of here. Let's stay in touch.